Shana Tova, everyone. We'll get started in a minute or two. It's good to be together. Gemar Chatima Tova, everyone. It's wonderful to be together as we continue this commemoration of the New Year. This period of 10 days where we not only come together as a community, whether in person or online, but we have an opportunity to turn over a new leaf in our lives, in our relationships, and hopefully in our world as well. We'll say more in a little bit about Kol Nidre and what's to come, but first we need to complete the process of this week. So we'll turn to page 380 for our Mincha service, and we'll continue through there, building up to Kol Nidre. For anyone who would want in person as well, outside there are candles to light during this time. You can go in between as well, but Feel free to find your way out there. Page 380. Ashrei Yoshvei B'techa Od Yalelucha Sela Ashreyam Shekach Lo Ashreyam Shadonai Elohav Tila David Mimcha God Adonai Moed Potei Chedidech Masviach Ratzon Tzadik Tilat Adonai Yadaber Pi Vivarech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Leolam Vaed V'anachnu Nevarechia Me'ata V'yad Olam Hallelujah. We rise in body or in spirit on page 381 for Chatzi Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה מעמד יברח ירוטב ימניח מלכותי בחייכון ויומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה וזמן קריב ימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ומיה יברך וישתבח ויבא ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתעלה ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירן מעמה וימרו amen. We'll begin the Amidah together in the middle of page 381, offering the first three blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Mekonei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה זוכרנו לחיים לחפץ בחיים וכותבנו בספר החיים למענך אלוהים חיים מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נקדש שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, כך כתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך על הארץ כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, בדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי על מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני. המלך הקדוש, אתה קדוש, אתה המלך הקדוש. Yadai, dai, dai, ayadai, ayadai. We'll continue with Kaddish Shalem, page 388. Right, 338. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבם, אלמד דברי קירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייך ובמלכנו וחיי לכבד ישראל, מגלה ובזמן קריב ימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבם מבורך, לעולם ומעמיה יתברך. יברך וישתבח ויבר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודש הבריחו לילה לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה נמירן מעלמה ויאמרו אמן. תקבל צאן לבנו לכל ישראל קודם ובהון וישמעיה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו יעשה שלום עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו amen. Page 342, we remain standing for עלינו. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו קריי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל העולם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שכונותי שמיים ויסד הארץ משל השמיים ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו We invite those who are in mourning or observing yard sites today to rise as we join in the mourners' Kaddish on page 346. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Melma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael magala v'yizman kari v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam omei amaya yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu Leila, Leila, min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, namiran be'alma v'yimru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. May be seated for a few moments as we enter into our Kol Nidre this evening. In our Machzorim, you'll find the beginning with Or Zarua on page 397. But I wanted to take just a moment to set up where we are in this place. We know that while we had hoped that things maybe by this point in time were back to normal, things are a little bit hafoch, things are a little bit flipped. And we know that the rabbis teach us really that Yom Kippurim, if you really look at the word, Eliana reminded me of this before our service, the rabbis teach that the word is Yom Kippurim, that it's like the holiday of Purim. And what is characteristic of our holiday of Purim? We wear masks. So we sit here in this holiday, which is not like Purim, which is kind of the opposite of Purim, but really, actually, in a lot of ways may feel like Purim today. But the kavanah I want to leave you with as we sit and let the melodies, 1,300-year-old melodies of Kol Nidre wash over us in the next few moments, is to give yourself permission behind your masks, behind your screens, to sit in that place of vulnerability. Just like on Purim, when we wear masks, when we just literally disguise ourselves, we get to disguise ourselves a little bit here as well. Just like on our Zoom screens over the last year and a half, maybe some of you took advantage of being able to sing as loudly as you wanted to. Our masks mute our voices a little bit as we sing, so raise up your voices. The people around you probably won't hear you. But nonetheless, it's the act of singing together that we can see in our eyes as we look at each other across this room and across these screens. So, things will be a little bit different. We know that, and we are missing Rabbi Rosenthal, who is joining us online tonight. And for those who didn't get the notification, Rabbi Rosenthal tested positive for COVID. Unfortunately, he's feeling fine. He has no symptoms. So he will be joining us tomorrow online to give the sermon and those things. But we are here together in our masks, in our vulnerability, in our presence as we enter into Kol Nidre. So we will rise together as we turn to page 397 for Or Zarua, and as the ark is opened.
Oh
Mishiva Shemala Vishiva Shemata Allah Tamakom Veldataka Anu Matirin Leit Palel Ima Variani Mishiva Shemala Uvishiva Shemata Allah Tamakom Velataka Anu Matirin Leit Palel Mahavariani Mishiva Shemala Mishiva Shemata Allah Tamakom Veldataka Anu Matirin Hitpalel Ima Havariani
Kol Nidre Vesare Vacharame Vekoname Vechiruye Vechiruse Ushevot Din Zana Urishtabana Ureacharimna Vediasarna Al Nafshatana Miyom Kippurim Zeh Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu Latova Kol Hon Yicharadna Vehon Kol Hon Yehon Sharan Shekin Shevitin V'telin Umevotalin L'asheririn V'l'kayamim Nidrana La Nidre V'sarana La Esarem Ushevuatana La Shevut Kol Nidre
All vows,
Vesare
renunciations,
V'charame
bans,
V'koname
oaths,
V'chinuye
formulas of obligation,
V'kinusay
pledges,
Ushevuot
and promises
Tintarna
that we vow or promise.
Udeacharimna
Consecrate.
V'diasarna al nafshatana.
Or prohibits upon ourselves.
Yom Kippurim zeh ad Yom Kippurim
From this Yom Kippur until the next.
haba aleinu letova.
May the year be good.
Kulhon icharat navehon.
We hereby retract them all.
Kulhon yehon sharon.
May they all be undone.
Shvitin.
Repealed, canceled.
Betelin umevutalin.
Voided, annulled,
La sharirin
and
vela kayamin.
regarded as neither valid nor binding.
Nidrana la nidre.
Our vows are no longer vows.
Vesarana la esare.
Our renunciations no longer renunciations, and our promises shall not be considered promises.
Ushavuatana la shavuot.
Kol Nidre Vesarei Mecharamei Mekonamei Mechinuye Mekinusei Ushevuot Dinadarna Udishtabana Udeacharimna ay 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 Vediasarna al nafshatana Miyom Kippurim ezeh ad Yom Kippurim haba aleinu letova kulhan icharat navehon kulhan yehon sharan shevikin shevitin betelin umevutalin lashririn velakayamin nidrana la nidre vesarana la esare ushevuatana la shevuot. Page 400. v'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael melager hagar metolcha ki lechol am bishkaga Salach na lavon hamazeh kegodel chastecha v'chashen asat lamazeh mimitzrayim ve'ad hena v'sham nemar Vayomer Adonai salachti ki yarecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו הקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. We're seated as the ark is closed behind us. In a moment, we'll invite Jen. Jen, come on up. We have the privilege of being welcomed this evening as we enter into Yom Kippur by a message from our Sisterhood, from one of our co-presidents, Jennifer Rosenfeld. Our Sisterhood is really one of the backbones of the synagogue. It's been around almost as long as the synagogue itself, and really continues to be a strong force and the connective tissue which binds many of our congregants together, especially during this time of distancing. So, Jen, thank you for being here and for making some remarks.
Thank you for that introduction. I hope through the Mass you can hear me, everyone. As Rabbi said, I'm Jennifer Rosenfeld, and my outstanding co-president, Brooke Rosenthal, cannot be with me tonight, and we're both very grateful and honored to be in the lineage of 100 years of Sisterhood presidents. From generation to generation, our centennial organization continues to thrive by the contributions and participations of all of its members. We welcome you to join our annual Worship in Pink Shabbat coming this October 16th for breast cancer awareness, and our special Sisterhood Shabbat is all led by women. We also welcome you to join our opening program, Sisters in the Sukkah, with wine and appetizers and desserts out on the lawn in front of the fountains. That will be Thursday, September 23rd at 6:30. You can register online or pay at the door. We'd also like to welcome our members here to join Zahava, the younger woman's way to celebrate and explore our Jewish identities. With that organization, you can come to our annual Hanukkah party or Hamantash and Bake Off. Both are always super fun, and all are welcome, regardless of your age. Other programs we would like to invite you to throughout the year are monthly learning programs like our book club and Latte and Learn. Your membership and donations provide crucial financial support for our children's religious school education and our B'nai Mitzvah journeys and milestone gifts. This past year, we awarded over 16 scholarships for Jewish summer camps and Israeli study abroad. In addition, we also offer holiday packages for our AA families, college students. Let us know if you have a college student that we can support. We'd love to send them some special gifts. Our latest contribution to our AA community is the newly endowed Rabbi Neil Sandler Fund to provide older adult education programs. Within the next month, we will have our scholarship application available on our website to download for anyone interested in organizing some new programs. Our annual spring donor event is our largest fundraiser. With that, we raise close to 30% of the revenue needed to support our religious school educators. This year, we are very, very excited to announce that our Medallion Tea event in March will be in honor of Susan Sandler. Other things the Sisterhood does is contribute to our greater Atlanta community through many different organizations such as the Bremen Jewish Home, Jewish Family and Career Services, AA Acts, which is Awareness and Action to Abolish Child Trafficking for Sex. We also have committees for the homeless shelters at Sherith Israel and Zabin Parodies Center, which is always near and dear to my heart. I was so pleased this past year with COVID, we were able to double the amount of meals we bring to Zabin. Normally we bring about 14 meals in a season, and this year we brought over 30 meals from all the generous contributions from our members. If you are a current or past member, we invite you to pay your membership's dues this week to support all the programs we just highlighted, plus so much more we do behind the scenes to enrich our Ahavat Hachim community. If you've never been a member, please consider becoming a part of this great organization. Thank you so much for your support. Shana Tova Gamar Haktima Tova. Happy New Year. May we all be inscribed in the book of life for a good and healthy year. And good Yant.
Thanks, Jen. On Rosh Hashanah last week, I spoke of my realization many months ago that the pandemic had effectively closed off my heart to the outside world. I spoke of how, in the process of building physical walls of safety, I also built walls around my heart. I spoke of the ways we numb, distance, and ignore our heart's cries, and of how we need to break down those walls to live life fully, to really experience life as opposed to letting it pass us by. To do so, we have to inhabit the space of the wilderness, I taught. The place that Brené Brown describes as the untamed, unpredictable place of solitude and searching. A place as dangerous as it is breathtaking. A place as sought after as it is feared. The wilderness can often feel unholy, she says, because we can't control it, or what people think about our choice of whether to venture into that vastness or not. But it turns out to be the place of true belonging, and it's the bravest and most sacred place you will ever stand. It's in this place of wilderness that we become fully present to our needs and desires, courageously calling out to the universe and being met, as the psalmist states, with expansiveness. And it's here that I want to pick up this evening, because I know that sometimes, even when we want to open ourselves up to the world, it can be incredibly hard to actually take that first step. To not only decide to step into the wilderness, but to leave, as it says of Avraham Avinu, your land, the land of your birth, and the house of your father. What prevents us from taking this first step, that step that we want to take, that maybe we know we need to take in our lives? How might we move forward in this wilderness to really live life? Tonight there are three main barriers that I want to focus on: overwhelm, fear, and the stories that we tell ourselves. First off, the feeling of overwhelm and exhaustion can make journeying into the wilderness daunting, if not downright impossible. Have you ever had those moments when you're sick and tired, when the piles keep piling up on your desk and at the same time in the sink? Those days where it takes everything that you have to get through the day, and there's certainly in that space isn't any room for additional emotional expenditure that's required to actually sit in a place of vulnerability. When our emotional tanks are running empty, we need to find a way to fuel up. Time away, reading a good book, a deep conversation with a close friend, or even something as simple as sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of warm coffee or tea, gazing out the window, can help us over time to have the capacity to engage and connect deeply with others. And this is essential. We can't thrive when we have an empty tank. And at its core, this is what Shabbat in our communities are about as well. It's an acknowledgement that we need to create that palace and time each week to connect, to refresh, to yinafash, to resoul ourselves. By creating that space for Shabbat in our lives, we reconnect with our essential selves. And it reminds us that at our core, we are human beings, not human doings. We have to create the time to just be. Recharging our capacity for emotional openness is only the first step. Often, as we're about to step into that wilderness, fear appears as our arch enemy and maybe also our friend. And with it comes often with the ideas, the feelings of comfort and familiarity. We fear failure, or rather being failures. We fear success, of how our lives may change if we actually do succeed in whatever we're embarking upon. We fear being seen at the same time as we desperately long for it, fearing that maybe we're not enough, we're not worthy of love, we weren't meant to be happy. We fear the feeling of loneliness, of being disconnected from ourselves and others. These fears come by many names, but they all point at those deep needs that each and every one of us have in our lives. The needs to belong, to be seen, to be loved. Jen Hatmaker, a pastor and writer, beautifully expresses this fear, teaching that standing on the precipice of the wilderness is bone-chilling, because belonging is so primal, so necessary. The threat of losing your tribe or going alone feels so terrifying as to keep most of us distanced from the wilderness our whole lives. Human approval is one of our most treasured idols, and the offering we must lay at its hungry feet is keeping others comfortable. I'm convinced that discomfort is the greatest deterrent of our generation. The truth is, though, that this fear isn't only a problem of our generation. We see this deep truth in the Israelites who leave Egypt. As I mentioned last week, the book of Numbers tells of the 12 spies who journeyed to scout out the land of Israel. After 40 days, they return with a giant cluster of grapes and report that the land is indeed fruitful. It is flowing with milk and honey. But the land is filled with giants. And how could we, us grasshoppers, possibly conquer the land? This fear is most present in Caleb and Joshua's response to the now terrified people, telling them that if the Lord is pleased with us, God will bring us into that land, a land that flows with milk and honey, and give it to us. Only you must not rebel against the Lord. Have no fear of them, of the people of that country, for they are our prey. Their protection has departed from them, but the Lord is with us. Have no fear. On the verge of entering the promised land, their fear of failure gets the best of them. And as a result, none of them enter the land. But there's another side of this story that I think sheds an entirely different light. The Alter Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, teaches us that what they were afraid of was not failure, of being conquered, but what they were afraid of is success. Now think about it for a moment. They just spent all of this time wandering in the wilderness. God has existed in their midst, and yes, they were wandering for a while, but they didn't have anything to worry about. They had food for every single meal. They knew exactly when to get up and leave and when to be put back down. They didn't have to think about anything. And what the Alter Rebbe teaches is that these 10 heads of the tribes were afraid that when they got into the land of Israel, they would lose that connection with God in the work that it takes to actually build up the land, in the work that it takes to plant the fields, to build a system of justice, to build a place to worship God, that they would forget about what they were actually doing, who is at the center of their communities, namely God. At the core, they were comfortable with the way things were. They had gotten used to the desert and its journey, and even the familiarity, as hard as it may have been, of Egypt was preferable for them to the unknowns of of having to build up the land. They, as we often do, choose what is known over the unknown, of the possible, of the place over the place of openness and expansiveness. And that's why comfort and familiarity conspire with fear to keep us in that closed place. Other than in the most dire of circumstances, we'd often rather take what is known, with all of its joy and pain, over the discomfort of stepping out into that wilderness, even if that wilderness means doing the things that we were put here on this earth to do, the things that we enjoy most in this world. And in that way, we're not so different from those Israelites who never left Egypt. Oh, you didn't hear about those Israelites? We don't talk about them often. But there's an old midrash in the Mechilta which teaches that only 1 in 5 Israelites actually left Egypt. Which means 4 in 5 Israelites, 80% of the Israelites in Egypt, chose the comfort, or the familiarity rather, of slavery in Egypt over the journey to the promised land. But our inheritance, those of us who are sitting here today, are of those Israelites who left, who made the journey, who, like Nachshon, took that step into the water, not knowing if it would part. Our story is of journey and of wilderness. Finally, the stories that we tell to ourselves and about ourselves, our ancestors, our families, our communities, help to define who we think we are and who we may yet become. These stories are shaped by the experiences of our lives, the losses we've experienced, those moments when our hearts have been broken, and our failures, as well as those moments of success, of love, of connection, and of affirmation. These stories give our lives meaning and give rise to the things that we believe about the world and our agency within it. Now, some of these beliefs, some of these stories are liberating. They propel us forward in the world. They help us do our life's work. But others of them are limiting. They hold us back from being ourselves and from inhabiting that place of true belonging in the wilderness. We tell ourselves things like, well, it's because I'm not lovable. It's because I'm not good enough to be associated with this person. Or I'm not deserving of that raise or the respect of my family or my colleagues. These beliefs have been developed in our lives as a way of protection, but they don't always protect us, and we often hold on to them long after they're actually helpful. And so, these stories that we tell us that are holding us back, we need to find ways to reframe. We need to externalize them and ask ourselves, are they really true? And are they really helping us to become the fullest me that I can be in this world? As Brene Brown points out, our task this time of year is to shed the armor around our hearts, those stories, those things that we keep with us that serve as a barrier to true belonging. She writes, many of us armor up as a way to protect ourselves as children. Once we grow into adults, we start to realize that the armor is preventing us from growing into our gifts and ourself. Just like we can strengthen our courage muscle for a stronger back by examining our need to be perfect and please others at the expense of our own life, we can exercise the vulnerability muscle that allows us to soften and stay open rather than attack and defend. This means getting comfortable with vulnerability. But most of the time we approach life with an armored front for 2 reasons. We're not comfortable with emotions, and we equate vulnerability with weakness. And or 2, our experiences of trauma have taught us that vulnerability is actually dangerous. Violence and oppression have made our soft front a liability, and we struggle to find a place emotionally and physically safe enough to be vulnerable. The definition of vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. But vulnerability, she writes, is not a weakness. It's our most accurate measure of courage. When the barrier is our belief about vulnerability, the question becomes, are we willing to show up and be seen when we can't control the outcome? When the barrier to vulnerability is about safety, the question becomes, are we willing to create courageous spaces so we can be fully seen? She finishes, a soft and open front is not being weak. It's being brave. It's being the wilderness. This is the opportunity of tonight, the opportunity of Kol Nidre, the opportunity of these 25 hours. What stories do you tell of yourself that you wish to carry with you in this new year? And what are the stories that are no longer helpful for us, those stories that we want to shed behind, just as we shedded those vows of this past year? What are the fears that hold us back, that are not actually justified or true, that we might want to transform into opportunities? And the question is, by Ne'ilah, are we ready to step into these new stories? Are we ready to step into this transformed self, this returned self, this alive self? And that also is my blessing for us. May we be fully present in our time together. May we lift up our voices. May we reflect on our year, on our lives, on our stories. And may we continue to grow in this day and in the days to come. Gamar Chatima Tova. We'll turn back into our Machzorim on page 408 as we rise in body or in spirit for the Baruch Hu.
Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine. Nine, 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 nine.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
May be seated.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Umavir yom umevi laila umavdil ben yom uven laila Adonai tzevot shemo el chai v'kayam tamidim l'chaleinu leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Amariv Aravim Avat Olam
Beit Yisrael Amchavta Torah
Be'avatcha al tasir mimenu leolamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Adonai Elohechem emet.
Page 418. Gidonai Eloheinu vein zulato v'nach liv'Yisrael amo. Amadech Elohei. Malchuto miratzon kibelu alehem Moshe uvenei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rab ve'amru chulam michamocha ma'elim Adonai Mikamocha medar b'kodesh Noira tehilo osefene Malchutecha ra'u vanecha Mokei hayam lifnei Moshe Zeli yadenu ve'amru Adonai Melech le'olam va'ed V'ne'emar Ki vada Adonai ad Yaakov Ugalo me'ad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael
Ashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
We rise at the bottom of page 420 as we proclaim this day.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם לפני אדוני תטהרו.
Remain standing for Chatzi Kaddish, page 422. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah Melmad yivrach yirutei Ve'amlich malchutei Mechayechon v'yom echon U'chaye dechol beit Yisrael Magala ubizman kariv vimeru amen. Yesh meraba mevorach le'alam u'me'amaya Yibarach v'ishtabach Yibar v'trom v'mitnaseh v'tadar v'taleh v'talal shemei dekudisha b'richu Leila Leila Mikol birchata v'shirata Tushvechata v'nechemata Damiran me'alma v'imeru amen. We take a few moments for our private Amidah, beginning on page 424 through page 440. Hashiveni ve'ashuva Hashiveni ve'ashuva Chadesh, Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem Hashiveni ve'ashuva Hashiveni ve'ashuva Chadesh, Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem Chadesh, Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. We turn to page 446 as we recite the Piyut Ya'aleh, bringing it in the evening, bringing it in the morning, and really combining, being present in the fullness of this Yom Kippur day. That big again.
Ya da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Ya halal. Ya halal. Tachanunenu me'erev ve'yavo. Shabbatenu miboker ve'yira'eh rinunenu ad ha'areh Ya halel kolenu me'erev ve'yavo tzidkatenu miboker ve'yira'eh rinunenu ad ha'areh Ya halel rinunenu me'erev ve'yavo tzidkatenu miboker ve'yira'eh nakatenu ad ha'areh Ya da 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 Ya da 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 Ya da 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 שמע תפילתך כל בשר יבואו וישתחוו לפניך אדוני ויכבדו לשמך בואו נשתחווה ונכרע נברכה לפני אדוני עושנו. לכו לאדוני נריע לצור ישנו נקדמה פנה בתודה בזמירות נריע לו צדק ומשפט מכון כיסך חסד אמת יקדמו פניך אשר לא הים ולא עשהו ויבשת ידיו יצרו אשר בידו נפש כל חי ורוח כל בשר איש. May be seated. הנשמה לך והגוף לך חוסה חוסה אללה מלך הנשמה לך והגוף לך חוסה חוסה אללה מלך הנשמה לך והגוף שלך אדוני עשה למען שמך הנשמה לך והגוף שלך אדוני עשה למען שמך. עתנו על שמך אדוני עשה למען שמך מעבור כבוד שמך כי אל חנון ורחום שמך למען שמך אדוני וסלחת לעווננו כי רב הוא. Page 450.
כי הנה כחומר ביד היוצר ברצותו מרחיב וברצותו מקצר כן אנחנו בידך חסד נוצר
לברית הבית ואל תפן ליצר
הנה כאבן ביד המסתת ברצותו חז וברצותו מחתת כן אנחנו בידך מחייב
brita bet, la brita bet,
We read together page 452. We are clay, you are the potter, who shapes us at your will. Mold us into worthy vessels, even though we're only clay. Do not smash us if we're imperfect. Remember, we are only clay. We are glass, you are the artisan. Who can form us into many shapes, form us into finest crystal, even if you have to twist and turn. But do not smash us if we are not pure. Remember, we are only glass. We are silver, you are the smith, who molds us as you wish. Hammer us as you design, even though we are not gold. Do not smash us if we tarnish. Remember, we are only silver.
We are the rudder. You are the helmsman. Who steers us to the left or to the right. Direct us to the shore you chose. Do not let us idly spin. Even if we consistently resist your grasp, remember that the waves are very strong.
We are the threads, you are the weaver, who creates the patterns that you like. Weave us, God, into your plan. Make us supple, straight, and true. Do not discard us if we should be imperfect. Remember, we are only threads. We turn to page 54, and we enter into the introduction to the 13 attributes of mercy. And I want to remind us, as we enter into this section of Slichot, this section of forgiveness, that the point of our introspection, the point of our reflection, the point of acknowledging our sins is not to punish ourselves. It's not to hurt or to afflict ourselves, but rather it's to open ourselves up. I remember back when I was living in New York, Eliana was there that night as well, we were at Romamu, and there was a young man who got up to talk about his journey specifically with the high holidays. And he said that the holidays growing up for him, especially this liturgy, was incredibly difficult because he was already hard on himself. And every time he would get to this part, he would take his fist and he would beat on himself harder and harder to try to atone for the sins, the things he had done wrong over the last year, until finally he had to step away from it entirely. He couldn't do it anymore because it was too painful. So I want to offer you over the course of these holidays 2 potential reframes of this. One of them I'll talk about tomorrow evening. But one of them actually takes its center stage in one of Eliana's songs. Namely, that instead of beating ourselves, we can think of it more as tapping our hearts, as knocking on our hearts and inviting it to open up during this time. Just as at the end of tomorrow night, the gates close, we start Yom Kippur by helping to open ourselves up. We rise together as the ark is open, page 454.
המלך יושב על כיסא רחמים, מנהג בחסידות מחלבונות עמו, מעביר ראשון ראשון, מרבה מחילה לחטאים, וסליחה לפושעים, עושה צדקות עם כל בשר ברוח, לא חרתם תגמול. הראית לנו למר 13, זכר לנו יום ברית 13, כמו שהודעת לענב מקדם כמו שכתוב, וירד אדוני בענן וידרסה במושם, ויקרא בשם אדוני, ויבוא אדוני על פניו ויקרא.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rach Chesed V'Emet, Noseh Chesed La'amlachim, Noseh Avon
וחשך וחטא ונקה. וסלחת לעווננו וחטאתנו נחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קוראיך. The ark is closed and we're seated as we continue on page 456. זכור רחמך אדוני וחסדך כי מעולם המה. זוכרנו אדוני ברצון עמך, בוגדנו בישועתך. זכור עדתך קנית קדם, גאלת שבט נחלתך, הציון זה שכנת בו. זכור אדוני חיבת ירושלים, אהבת ציון אל תשכח לנצח. זכור לנו ברית אבות כאשר אמרת, וזכרתי את בריתי יעקב, ואף את בריתי יצחק, ואף את בריתי אברהם, אזכור והארץ אזכור. זכור לנו ברית ראשונים כאשר אמרת, וזכרתי להם ברית ראשונים, אשר הוצאתי אותם מארץ מצרים, לעיני הגויים להיות להם לאלוהים, אני אדוני.
רחם עלינו ואל תשחיתנו כמה שכתוב, כי הרחם אדוני אלוהיך לא ירפך ולא ישחיתך ולא ישכח את ברית אבותיך אשר נשבע להם. מולד לבבינו לאהבה וליראת שמך כך כתוב בתורתך. ומל אדוני אלוהיך לבביך ואת לבב זרעך, לעבוד את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך למען חייך.
קבץ נדחנו כמה שכתוב, אם יהיה נדחך בקצה השמיים, משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהינו, משם ייקחך. הימצא לנו בבקשתנו כמה שכתוב, וביקשתם משם את אדוני אלוהיך ומצאת, כי תדרשנו בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך. כפר חטאינו ביום הזה ותערנו כמה שכתוב, כי ביום הזה יכפר עליהם לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם לפני אדוני תטהרו. Repeat after me each of the 5 lines at the top of page 458. Shema kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, hus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel barachamim u'mratzon et tefilatenu.
Shema kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, hus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel barachamim u'mratzon et tefilatenu. Ashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, Kadesh yameinu kekadem.
Ashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, Kadesh yameinu kekadem. Al tashlichenu milfanecha, v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu.
Al tashlichenu milfanecha, v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu. תשליחנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו.
אל תשליחנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו. אל תעזבנו אדוני אלוהינו, אל תרחק ממנו.
אל תעזבנו אדוני אלוהינו, אל תרחק ממנו.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אל תעזבנו ואל תטשנו, ואל תכלימנו ואל תפר בריתך איתנו. קרבנו לתורתך, למדנו מצוותיך, הורנו דרכיך, הט ליבנו ליראה את שמך, ומול אלוהינו לעבודתך, ונשוב אליך באמת ובלב שלם, למען שמך הגדול תמחול ותסלח לעוונותינו, ככתוב בדברי קודשך, למען שמך אדוני, וסלחת לעווני כי רב הוא.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. כי אנו עמך, ואתה אלוהינו, אנו בניך, ואתה אבינו, אנו עבדיך, ואתה אלוהינו, אנו גאליך, ואתה חלקנו, אנו נחלתך, ואתה גורלנו, אנו צונך, ואתה רוענו, אנו חרמך, ואתה נוטרנו, אנו גאולתך, ואתה יוצרנו, אנו רעייתך, ואתה דודנו, אנו סגולתך, ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך, ואתה מלכנו, אנו ממירך, ואתה ממירנו. אנו הזפנים, ואתה רחום וחנון, אנו קשי עורף, ואתה ערך אפיים, אנו מלא עוון, ואתה מלא רחמים, אנו ימינו קצר עובר, ואתה ושנותיך לא תתמו.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, תבוא לפניך תפילתנו, ואל תתעלם מתחינתנו, שאין אנחנו הזפנים, וקשי עורף לומר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו חטאנו. We rise as the ark is opened for Hashamnu in the middle of page 462. Ay, 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 Hashamnu, Baganu, Gazalnu, Dibanu Dofi, ay, 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 Tafanu sheker, ay, 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 Yatsnura, Kizavnu, Latsnu, Hamas, Maradnu, Niatsnu, Saranu, Avinu, Ashanu, Saranu, Hishinu Oreh, ay, 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 Rashanu, Shichadnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, איתנו.
איתנו.
איי, 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 So the ark is closed. We're seated at the bottom of 462. Sarahanu mitzvotecha mishpatecha tovim velo shavalanu ve'ata tzadik al kol haba aleinu ki emet asita ve'nachnu hirshanu. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu salach u'mechal avonotzeinu beyom ha'kippurim hazeh ve'ater lanu b'tfilatenu mecheh ve'aver pesheinu mineged einecha v'chofet yitzreinu nishpati lehishtabed lach ve'achna arpeinu לשוב אליך וחדש כליותינו לשמור פיקודך ומול לבבינו להבל יראת שמך ככתוב בתורתך ומול את אלוהיך את לבבך ואת לבב זרעך לאהבת אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך למען חייך.
מה נאמר לפניך יושם ארם ומה נספר לפניך שוכן שחקים הלא כל הנסתרות והנגלות אתה יודע רזי עולם ותעלומות סתרי כל חי אתה חופש כל חדרי בטן ובוחן כליות והלב אין דבר נעלם ממך ואין נסתר מנגד עיניך.
ובכן יהי רצון מפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו שתסלח לנו על כל חטאותינו ותמחל לנו על כל עוונותינו ותכפר לנו על כל פשעינו. We rise again in body and spirit as the ark is opened. We recite together Chet. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך באימוץ הלב.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בביטוי שפתים.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בדוי פה. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בזדון ובשגגה.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בחילול שם.
ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו, כפר לנו. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתשעות פה.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ולא יודעים.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בכפת שולחן, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך במאכל ומשתה. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך במאכל ומשתה.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בנטיעת גרון.
ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו, כפר לנו. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בסיקור עין.
ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעצות מצח.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בלוד, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בצרות עין, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בחילות. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בשנאת חינם.
ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתימהון לאיבה.
ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו וחלנו, כפר לנו. We turn to page 472 for Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu chatan lefanecha, Avinu Malkeinu אין לנו מלך אלא אתה. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu, Ve'alol aleinu, V'tapeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale tever, V'cherev rav, Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Galei kol tzar, Umastin Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kodveinu, B'sefer Chaim Tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu, Chadesh Aleinu, Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu, Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu, Shema Koleinu, Shema Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki Emanu Masim. Aseh Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki Emanu Masim. Aseh Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh Imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. We remain standing as the ark is closed for Kaddish Shalem, the Hasidic Kaddish, page 476.
Bum 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 bum.
Gadol v'hitadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'yom Divrach Yirutei, Be'yam Hilachutei, V'chayechon u'v'yom echon, U'v'chayei techol Beit Yisrael, B'hagala u'v'zman karim, Ve'hi
me'amaya yitbarach
v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha
Leilan leila min kol yachata v'shirata tushvechata v'nechemata lamiran be'alema tushvechata menechemata lamiran be'alema תתקבל צלון ועודון נכובד ישראל קודם אבוהון דיבי שמיה וימרו נשמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו Page 478, Aleinu. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה יוצא ראשית, שלא עשנו כלי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חוקים כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ושכינתו זו בגפי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו ידעת היום להשיב אותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו May be seated. We turn to page 484 as we recite Psalm 27, our psalm for the season of repentance. We're going to sing just 6 words, which appear 7 lines from the bottom of the page, beginning at the second word in the line, but actually the the seventh word. V'choneni va'aneni. Why these words? Why this text? Why did Eliana said it so beautifully as we're about to sing it? There's a movement when we sing that if we really raise our voices together, if we lift up our voices in song, in prayer, then we actually are transported to a place beyond words. I've only had that experience actually a couple of times in my life where the prayer was so deep and I was so present and into it that actually I had no words anymore. Words would not come out of my mouth. One of the times I was leading and that wasn't great, but there's a power to this melody in that it starts off with words, it starts off with a prayer, it starts off by raising up our voices and hoping for an answer. And then the words melt away into nigun, into melody, lifting up our voices for those prayers that we don't have words for, those prayers deep inside of our hearts, in hopes that they'll be answered.
Please sing. V'choneni, aovaneni, v'choneni, aovaneni, Kol Nidre, Kol Nidre, Kol Nidre, Kol Nidre, Shema.
Today, on this 10th of Tishrei, we remember Stanley Fine, the brother of Robert Fine, Harry Dwoskin, the father of Diane Bernstein, Louise Alpert, the grandmother of Douglas Diamond, Estelle Izor, mother of Robert Izor, Seymour Lewis, husband of Harriet Lewis, Samuel Ornstein, father of Alice Kaplan, Miriam LaBelle Dworitz, the sister of Joel LaBelle, Herman White, father of Sally Rosenberg, Pauline Wernick, grandmother of Jill Bates, and Louise Alpert, also the grandmother of David Diamond. And we bring to mind all of those loved ones who we've lost in the last month, in the last year. I'll invite you at this time, if you're in the room, to say aloud the names of your loved ones who you're thinking of, and those online, if it's comfortable for you, to put those in the chat boxes or to say them aloud in your spaces. We invite all those who are in mourning to rise in body or in spirit as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish, page 482. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'yizman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam omei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach, v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. You be seated. Gemar Chatima Tova, everyone. It's wonderful to be together. Thank you for being here tonight, for those in the room and for those online. I have the privilege now, before we conclude our service, of inviting Adam Hirsch to offer some welcome to us. Adam is a new board member of ours, and incredibly generous with his time and his talents. If any of you have been following the Yom Kippur appeal videos that have been so beautifully done, Adam is behind those and generously just pours his heart into them. And thank you to Jacob as well for all of your editing to make us look beautiful and make sure we get the right shots and the right light and all of those things. So thank you to you both. And Adam, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening. It is truly an honor to stand before you tonight on this Kol Nidre evening as a new officer for AA Synagogue. It is a great feeling to look out and see a room full of people and see people up in the balcony as well. And for those of you who are at home watching us or streaming wherever you stream, thank you for being with us as well. Your presence is felt with us. I am grateful for all the preparation and hard work put in by all of our professional staff, lay leaders, and all of the hours and hours of hard work by our rabbis to ensure that our high holiday hybrid experience is meaningful, spiritual, and most of all, memorable. Thank y'all for all you do. I also want to thank Eliana and the Blustons for being with us and helping to elevate our experience as well. I see Barry Herman back there, and I want to take the time to thank you as well. I don't think any of us really know what he does and all the hard work he does to, sometimes around the clock to make this place work. And thank you for all you do. We're grateful. Also, I know Rabbi Rosenthal, who also worked very hard for weeks to help make a memorable high holiday experience. We're sorry that you can't be with us tonight, and we hope that you continue to remain well. We have quite a slate for tomorrow with services starting at 8 a.m. here in the main sanctuary, and there are way too many events for me to start naming them, so I'm going to have to ask you to go online to our High Holiday Hub, where we have everything spelled out, all the times and ways that you can stream, and the locations for all the services. So make sure to go to aasynagogue.org. I want to also tell you about an initiative called AARI, Ahavat Achim Refugee Initiative. They are collecting household necessities and equipment to help assistance of setting up apartments for those refugees in need. They set up personal health and hygiene kits and more. And I want to thank our AARI co-chairs, Carol Glickman and Randy Crone, for all that you do. As in past years, we ask our congregants to support Operation Isaiah, our community-wide initiative to provide food to feed the hungry. Unlike in the past when we've had bins lined up and you can come and drop off food, unfortunately this year the drive is virtual, and we ask that you donate to this very important cause in support of the Atlanta Food Bank. Checks may be dropped off at the synagogue or mailed in, or you can go on directly and donate online. I was fortunate to spend some time a few weeks ago at the Atlanta Food Bank with Jacob Ross in their brand new and updated facility. The food bank recently expanded their space because unfortunately, the needs in this city have grown exponentially. And the events of the last year and a half have done nothing to slow these needs. I was honored to be there as a member of AA Synagogue and to see firsthand the impact that we as a congregation have had on the Atlanta community and all that we are doing to help end hunger. Again, please join us in giving to Operation Isaiah. Finally, just a few more thoughts. Yom Kippur is upon us, and it is not just one of the holiest days of the year, but it is also a time for reflection. When I reflect on all the things that this congregation has accomplished and achieved over the last year, I am overcome with pride. We have rallied around each other, and we have helped lift each other up in what has continued to be hard and unimaginable times. The initiatives I just talked about are just of a few things that are done each and every day by this incredible congregation. I'm reminded time and time again of all the reasons that my family have chosen AA as our spiritual home. We are constantly reminded and amazed by how this congregation is continuing to build on its storied past and how it is continuing to find ways to reinvent itself. Together, we are working hard to build a bright future. And it is no coincidence that this is the theme for this year's Yom Kippur Appeal and Chai campaign. Building a future together has so many meanings to me. We are building strong community relations. We are building new opportunities to pray together, to study together, and to socialize together, both in person and virtually. We are literally building a physical new space right here where I'm standing. This is a space that we will all be proud of, and I hope that we will all be able to pray here together next high holidays. There are so many ways to get involved and to make change, but it cannot happen without each and every one of you. The time to build our future is now. My children, Ruby and Mayer, attend preschool here at Ahava, and my family is proud to be a part of this congregation. And we want you to join us. We ask you to join us, not just by participating in the Yom Kippur Appeal and Chai campaign, but being present and joining us to make our future possible. AA is a fantastic place with incredible leaders and rabbis. The future looks bright, and I look forward to us building our future together. I wish you all an easy and meaningful fast and a happy and healthy new year.
Shana Tova. Thank you, Adam. And thank you for all you do to build up our community. We, at this time, will build towards sleep by ending with Yigdal on page 486. יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח, נמצא ואין את המציאותו, אחד ואין יחיד, כי ייחודו, נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו. אין לו דמות הגוף ואין לו גוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו, קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון בראשית לראשיתו. הינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר, יורד גדולתו ומלכותו, שכן נבואתו נתנו, אלא שסגולתו ותפארתו. לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד, נביא ומביט את אמונתו, תורת אמת נתן לעם אוהל, על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו. לא יחד יפאר ולא ימיר דתו, לעולמים לזולתו. צופה ויודע סתרנו, מביא לסוף דבר בקדמתו. גומר לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרישתו. ישלח לקץ ימים משיחנו, לפתור מחכה קץ ישועתו. מתים יחייהם ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדיין שם תהילתו. מתים יחייהם ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדיין שם תהילתו. Gemar Chatima Tova, everyone. Just a reminder, please make your way out of the building, and we'll ask if you want to talk to each other, if you want to greet each other, please do so once you've left the building at that time for our safety. Thank you all, and may we all have a meaningful day, and for those fasting, a meaningful fast.
John. Hey.
Just leave my stuff here. We need to look at anything tonight?